This is Davey Boy Smith Jr., and you're watching Hannibal TV.
So what was it like growing up as a member of the Hart family?
It was interesting. It was really unique. I certainly don't wish to be a part of any other family. I mean, the memories growing up, the training certainly, a lot of the traveling and, being a part of big shows and being backstage and being able to see your father perform live and a lot of the family get-togethers we would always have at the Sunday dinners like you were a part of. It was really, really an awesome thing to me, so it was a great thing and certainly great memories to last for a lifetime,
So were you down in the dungeon pretty much as soon as you were able to walk?
Yeah, pretty much. We were, me and my cousins, we weren't like forbidden to go down there at first, but you would have probably remembered there was a lot of old weight equipment and stuff. And I'm talking about when we were probably like 7 and under, because they didn't want us, playing around with the weights and someone getting hurt or anything like that. But after, it came to a certain point, and I would watch my Uncle Bruce teaching a lot of the guys down there. And then, my interest sort of sparked, and then I saw what kind of hard physical training went behind everything that you see on TV or the guys that trained out there. And that was a real real eye-opener. And a lot of, you would have remembered them, a lot of the guys having to be forced onto the treadmill after training. And being a really young kid, I saw guys falling off the treadmill, going to the toilet and puking, or just puking right there. And it was...
Wouldn't Brian Pillman have the cow prod?
Yeah, you know what? I would have been, I wasn't, because I was too young, but man, I heard before, because the old hill that used to go down to the house, it's paved now, but it used to be a really shitty, lousy gravel road. And Pillman used to get guys to do the wheelbarrow, walking all the way up and walking all the way back down. And guys would fall and they would, it's the hard gravel, they would get cut up. And then, they would fall, and then Pillman would tell them, like, while they're climbing up, if there was a piece of dog shit on the floor, he'd say, "You go down, do 10 push-ups while you're down there." And then keep going. And then if somebody would screw up, "Okay, we're doing it, we're going to have to start over again." That's what Bruce told me. And I heard he was really rough on those guys, but he cut out the guys that either did want to be there or didn't want to be there, or just, physically couldn't cut it.
What was the difference in training between Bruce's training and Stu's?
You know what? I couldn't tell you a whole lot about Stu's training. I know that it was really physically grueling. Stu's training was probably harder than what Bruce was teaching. Then again, when Bruce had Pillman around, it was a whole different ballgame. I think that was more just to wipe some people out So anyway, but Stu's training, I didn't get a whole chance to train with him a whole lot. I did get to experience some stretching demonstrations done on me, either if it was in the kitchen or in the living room on the carpet, and that was fun. It was an experience, and I was young and flexible, luckily, but didn't really matter because once he started applying stuff, it was really torturous. So.
Speaking of Pillman, did you know him much?
I didn't get to know him, unfortunately. I have a few memories of him. I remember him when he was in WCW with my dad. We used to drive to Orlando for the TV tapings, and I would see him at the hotel, and I think, he said he would call Bruce on the weekend while we were there or whatever. And then I saw him at Canadian Stampede. That was the last time I saw him. And he was around that weekend, and he seemed to be in good spirits, but aside from watching him on the TV and all the stories I've heard, I didn't know him personally that well, so I was just too young. Yeah.
What was it like being the son of the British Bulldog? He was such a big star during your childhood.
Oh yeah, I mean, geez, that was, like I said, all the memories that I have, all the great, times traveling and getting to be a part of the WrestleManias and stuff like that. And one thing, my father, he was a huge superstar over here in North America, but I mean, compared to what he's like over in the UK, it's almost not even comparable. He's almost like a Hulk Hogan status or stature in the UK. So, you know, being over there whenever his name is brought up, or, you know, everybody's just, he's held in such a high regard, and that's really great, and I hope to do more and explore more in the UK. Unfortunately, they just had the World of Sport that was supposed to happen that just failed. It's a really lousy thing, because I think it was going to be huge, and that was like, because with my father's name and stuff like that, and the plans that they had for me was going to be huge. So not that it won't happen, but in this business, usually when things are postponed, or they say that it's going to happen and it hasn't actually happened yet, it's kind of very unsure. Yeah. So.
What was your favorite match of your father's growing up?
Oh, the Wembley Stadium match with my father. No question about it. Just being there live, man, it was really like what an experience that was. I mean, we were there for the whole week, right? And afterwards, we stayed there for a week, and we traveled back home to Goulburn, where my father was originally from, and it was almost like a week-long celebration of, you know, his victory there at Wembley Stadium. And you know, it's a funny thing, because the match itself was really great, but I tell people all this all the time. Me and my family, we were sitting all the way at the top of Wembley Stadium, and it's supposed to be the royal seats, so that's actually where the Queen sits to watch the events and games. So we got the royal seats, but unfortunately the royal seats, it was a really cool place to be up there, but it's like the nosebleed seats, like it's all the way, but there was a big, like a big bar and a restaurant and all kinds of security there to, you know, but so when I was watching, it looked like almost like a couple of ants wrestling each other in the ring, just because of how high up we were. So I could kind of see stuff from like that Titantron thing that they have above the ring. So it was a really back and forth, you know, match, and my Uncle Brett, he was really over in the UK at the time too. So it wasn't like a distinctive, like, oh, my dad hit something. It must have been him, because I couldn't tell which one was which. So when the final fall happened, everybody just went nuts, and then I didn't know who actually won the match, because both guys were, you know, very over, I could say, in England, but my dad definitely being more of the, just because of his, you know, being his background, being from the UK. So when I heard that his name announced as the new Intercontinental Champion, I mean, it was, what an awesome moment that was in history. And I mean, just you could feel the excitement and the ambience and the energy. Watching it now live, it's like, I think it was one of the greatest moments in WWE history, for sure, you know, without a question.
And he went to WCW pretty soon after that.
Yeah.
What was the reason why he switched?
So I'll give you a couple stories here. So as far as I know, there was a couple things. There was a disagreement on the merchandise sales that night, and as far as I know, I think my dad did over $1 million in merchandise that night, and I don't know what the cut was at that time, but the disagreement on it, I don't know what the exact amount he was supposed to get, but he got like something really lousy. And then there was also some kind of controversy with my father at the time with the Ultimate Warrior, and he supposedly got him in touch with the doctor to prescribe him. I think it was human growth hormone at the time, and I think that he just, as this is as far as I know, he just gave him a number to a doctor, and then when they were having a bunch of scandals and stuff at the time, so Vince said that he was firing him because of that.
Yeah.
You know, whether it was that or they had the disagreement about the merchandise, and both of those things, I couldn't tell you, but honestly, knowing things, I would go with that they had the disagreement on merchandise, and Vince isn't the most honest person, come on, you know, so, and then he left, and then I know that he left, and then he actually did a tour of All Japan Pro Wrestling, and at that time, it's funny, I'll show you sometime, I still have the contracts. He actually got contracted to fight for the UWFI at the time. Yeah, which would have been a really interesting thing, and he was supposed to move to Tennessee and do some training with Billy Robinson. And I think Little Guido and Billy Scott and some guys were there. And he was supposed to face Takada in Japan. And then All Japan ended up contacting him. And I think just with the rapport that he had with them before, he said no to UWFI, which, you know, in hindsight, kind of wonder what it would have happened, because they replaced my father with Vader for those fights with Takada.
Right.
And, you know, those fights were, you know, absolutely legendary, great matches. So then after that, he went to WCW shortly. And then when he departed from there,
why was that so short?
That was another.
There
was another money issue.
Okay.
And as far as I know, he was doing a lot of. They were starting to branch off into Europe and the UK. And my father, he was working. I think he was working Kevin Nash in England, who at the time was Vinny Vegas, and he wasn't anywhere near like the star he became with Diesel, but he was working with a lot of big guys like that and helping give them a lot of good experience, and you know, obviously being in the UK, him being a 7-footer. So I think he was really, in his opinion, he was helping bring up a lot of talent, and also helping WCW, because they didn't have any actual UK star baby faces at that time. And I think he was promised a certain amount of, I can't remember what it was, if it was a couple thousand a show or something like that at the time. And anyway, they ended up having a disagreement. And I think Bill Watts was in the company at that time. And then when he got fired, and Davey had this is as far as I know, he had a disagreement with Eric Bischoff. He said, well, that deal was what you did with Bill Watts, and we're doing something else. And anyway, it ended up being a big thing, because he was supposed to, I think he was supposed to he was going into a feud with Rick Rude at the time. And then I think he was supposed to win the TV title, but it never ended up unfolding. But you would probably remember some of his matches with Vader at the time.
Oh, yeah.
Just amazing and incredible. And Vader's has been a super guy with me. And we've talked about some of the matches and stuff like that. And definitely a lot of great.
More than Vader.
Maybe. Well, actually,
I won our little league competition, which is why I bring it up.
Yeah, for sure. You know, so
He speaks very highly of your father. Does he?
Yes, he does. He's a super guy.
And did you have much contact with Dynamite Kid when you were younger?
No, none. I'm absolutely. You know what? I saw him. You know what? He kind of came back into the picture a few years ago. And after, you know, he, of course, you probably know, he wrote his book, and him and my dad had a pretty bad falling out, and I think his book, to be perfectly honest, he was pretty one-sided, and it didn't really come across. He came across as being more. He seemed more bitter in it, you know what I mean? And maybe he's got some good reasons to be, but his daughter Bronwyn ended up getting in touch with him, and she came over to the UK. And I happened to be over, and then she kind of said, well, you know, you could come over and see him. He said, you're fine. I said, are you sure? And she said, yeah, you know. So I was doing a WWE tour over there, and then went over to his house, or his flat, or his condominium. And we watched some of his, I think it was Bulldog, the Malenkos, and his daughter brought over a DVD and a laptop, and it's funny because he hadn't watched a lot of these matches since they had happened, probably, and he still remembered. He was watching it. There's a good spot right here. It's a good one, and you do a little spot, and it's funny enough he remembers that was stiff or whatever, and he was pretty good. The last couple of times I saw him, his health has really taken a traumatic dive, I'll say. And the last time I saw him, he could barely speak, and he was shaking, and his one eye was kind of closed. And I was asking him little questions about guys, and all he really remembered was Tiger Mask, you know. And he was not in good shape. I hope he does well, but man, I don't.
What was that terrible rib he played on in Back Shack?
I don't know. I know that they screwed with him. I heard. I've heard about Dynamite. well, he was known for halcyon in guys' drinks, and my dad used to tell me that he would see him halcyon his beer or something like that, and he wouldn't think that he knew it or whatever, and he would take a sip of his beer, and he'd catch the pill in his mouth and then spit it out. And he'd act like he was watching something on TV, right? And then Dynamite would be kind of watching him, waiting for him to fade. And then he'd see Davey, you know, he'd be fine, and he'd be kind of wondering, like, oh, you know, is he building a tolerance to this, or you know what I mean? And I heard stories about him, like, lighting people's beds on fire while they were sleeping in them.
That stuff doesn't happen today.
No, you know, I think they were driving on the highway somewhere, maybe when they worked Stampede when they came back, and I heard a story that whoever was driving the car, that I think it was Dynamite or Davey, from behind, they just grabbed the guy's eyes like that and pulled him and yanked him so he couldn't start putting his feet on the brakes or on the gas. And they swerved into a ditch. I think Bruce just grabbed the wheel and turned it back in. But like, who knows? What if they would have crashed into a ditch and flipped, or you know, Dynamite was getting the guy back for something, right?
Yeah.
I don't know who it was. It could have been Bob Johnson or somebody. But.
And there was some heat towards the end with your dad and the Ultimate Warrior. Did that get settled and resolved?
No, it's too bad. It was one of those deals that I can tell you. So when it was a dispute over the name, the Ultimate Warrior, and Davey was working for WWE at the time, right? And Warrior wanted him to testify in court with him to say I was there when you came up with the name Ultimate Warrior and I presented it to Vince. And blah, blah, blah. So anyway, I think Davey just ignored his phone calls and stuff like that, because I remember him calling a few times, but it's like, well, what do you want the guy to do? He's working for WWE. He's going to testify against his boss to say, oh, well, I was there when, of course he probably was there. It might have been Jim's idea. And then Warrior was bad-mouthing Davey after he passed away, and it's like, well, why didn't you bad-mouth him before, and why are you bad-mouthing him? I mean, how can he actually, in his situation, say that about it, you know, go into court against his boss? Vince would probably fire him, or, you know, well, basically, I mean, especially in those days, right? So,
yeah,
it's too bad, whatever.
And you ended up having a WWE match when you were 11 years
Yes.
old, right? How did that come about?
Wow, so my cousin Matthew Annis, Ted's younger brother, he had the flesh-eating disease. And he passed away in July of 1996. It was a really, really shitty thing that happened, and it had happened to the best kid in the world, the worst thing to ever happen, you know, right? And so anyway, that October, WWE was coming for a live event, and then me and Ted and TJ, we were already wrestling in the ring, and we had done a couple live matches at the Rockyford Rodeo. And we came up with the idea, I think it was Davey that initially pitched it, and Owen at the time, that we would do a match to start off the show, just like a 5-minute exhibition match. And a lot of the guys donated that, and actually it's a very nice thing. Shawn Michaels that night, he donated his pay to the Children's Hospital for, and it's a nice thing that he did that, and he really didn't have to, but it was a nice thing, and Davey, and actually I think almost everybody did. So I did. I think I'm the youngest wrestler to have a match in a WWE ring at 11, and me and Ted versus TJ Wilson and Andrew Bukarnik. So that was, and yes, I can tell you those old WWE rings were a lot stiffer. Yeah.
You ended up training not only at the dungeon, but with
Yeah.
a guy named Tokyo Joe too.
Yes,
You
sir.
want to tell us how you got involved with him and who he is for those who don't know?
Yes, I certainly will. So Tokyo Joe, he came to Calgary initially in 1974, and he was supposed to it was supposed to be a short-lived stay, and he was going to come back to Japan and get a big push. And he ended up having an accident where he was changing a tire outside in the middle of winter, and a car came, hit him in the side of the leg, and he lost his leg. But with his connections to Japanese offices, he ended up staying in Canada, and didn't really want to go back to Japan because he felt like he lost face with the injury, and it's just one of those freak things that happens, right? So he ended up becoming a scout and for New Japan because he's got a real eye for talent, and his training is one of the hardest things to endure. So New Japan would send a lot of their Japanese boys to Calgary because you probably know the altitude there is different, but to train with Tokyo Joe and kind of build up their bodies. And Joe was pretty smart with a lot of guys, and he had a lot of good ideas. Like when they sent Tenzan to Calgary, and Joe thought that he kind of looked like a buffalo, and he'd always joke and call him a buffalo. But then he ended up becoming Hiroshi Tenzan. He comes out with the two horns, and he does the chop. And Joe came up with a lot of things, a lot of unique things and gave it to Tenzan. And then he also sent, Kensuke Sasaki, Osamu Nishimura, Kendo Kashian, a whole bunch of guys to Calgary. And Joe would kind of give him ideas for different techniques and names for things. So I got in touch with Joe in about 2002. He sort of came around because I think he had heard about TJ and Ted wrestling in Stampede Wrestling, and he was wanting to book some junior heavyweights, but he was actually looking, I think New Japan asked him to look for some heavyweights. And at that time, there wasn't really a whole lot of heavyweights in Calgary, like 2002, that were doing that kind of style. But he was definitely took an interest in Ted and TJ. And myself at the time, but I was only about 16 or 17. So, and I was still in high school and stuff like that. So I started training with Joe, and then TJ started training with Joe, and I think he took a liking to TJ. It's really hard work ethic, as I'm sure you probably know. So, and I actually got the opportunity to train with Joe when New Japan sent Hiroshi Tenzan to Calgary for the 2003 G1 Climax to help get him in shape and stuff like that, and he ended up beating Jun Akiyama in the finals. And I mean, what a hell of a match that is if you check it out on YouTube. So I can tell you one thing, man, nothing can compare to Tokyo Joe's training, that's for sure. I mean, nothing, that thing takes the cake. And you can see that with a lot of the hard training that he shows and teaches, and a lot of the hard stuff that you endure with that, when you're done with it, you can sort of kick back and say, well, I can do anything now. I just endured Tokyo Joe's training. And you have to think, man, when you're doing all those exercises and he's yelling at you, and sometimes he'd tell you that you're nothing, and he would do that, but he would belittle you, but he would do it not to be a dick or an asshole. He would do it to light a fire in you and inspire you to become better and go kind of past that point of when you're so fatigued that past that point where you can break through that point and keep going and keep going. And I remember one time, this was after my first New Japan tour, and I broke my hand here, and I had to take a couple months off. So, and TJ was coming back from England, and we had a tour to come, I think it was like 6 weeks, and we were both going to Japan together. And Joe said, he said the first day, he goes, okay, today we just do conditioning, no ring. Okay, Joe. And first day was kind of hard. I hadn't really done much. I did a little bit of weight training for a couple months. So then he goes, okay, we go in the ring a little bit. So we went in the ring, and that first day back, Joe made us, swear to God, me and TJ wrestle for 2.5 hours straight. Wow. No water breaks, nothing. So when we were in there, I started repeating the same moves after a while, like, okay, Saito suplex, TJ does his kick, spin kick, hits the ropes drop kick, we're doing this. Okay, we finish off with something, 1, 2, 3, and then Joe goes, okay, keep going, more, wrestle, boom, boom, boom. And then we would repeat the same stuff, and Joe go, hey, that's why, you stupid boy. You already do this move 2 times. Why? That's why, no technique. You need my training. Huh? You think good wrestler? I think shit. Like he would tell you straight like that. And when that 2.5 hours was done, I went home and was out like a light, went to sleep. I had a great sleep though. But that just goes to show you, and a lot of that hard training, you just got to think, imagine how much hard, not only physical, but emotional and mental training and abuse he probably went through when his leg was totally cut off by accident. And in his opinion, in reality, he was right about to go to Japan and become a huge star, and just his whole life was changed in front of him like that. So, you take that into account, and you do your best, right? So.
And you ended up getting signed to WWE very young, I think,
Yeah.
right out of high school. How did that come about, and why did you choose to go into WWE rather than Japan at that time?
Yeah, for sure, I can answer that. So, I wanted to, personally, I got signed too young with WWE, I'll tell you that straight off the bat. And that wasn't my fault, that was them they were kicking down my door. I mean, when I got signed, I didn't even get signed to a developmental contract. I got signed to a booking contract at $75,000 a year. But anyway, that doesn't matter. But so I was wanting to go to Japan and stay there for the first few years. And John Laurinaitis had contacted me and initially offered me for a developmental contract. And I said no because I wanted to go to Japan, which at the time Johnny respected. And I was close friends with Chris Benoit at the time, and he was really influencing me to go to Japan. So, I trained for about 4 or 5 months throughout the summer, and then I finally had my first tour in January. Now, when I first went to New Japan, the thing is that it was just kind of lousy timing with a lot of things, and it's just the way it is. At that time, New Japan was going through a real financial hardship, and they were going through a lot of changes in the office, and Antonio Inoki, I think, was sort of being pushed out of the company, and they were looking for new sponsors and a new way, and they went back and forth between him running things to, I think they brought back Ricky Choshu to, I think Liger was kind of a booker at one point. So anyway, I did 3 tours in 2005, and I wanted to keep going back there. And Joe, he was really good friends with CG Sakaguchi, and he would send guys over to Japan, and Sakaguchi always trusted Joe's eye, of course, because, one, if you endured Joe's training, you got to be in hell of a shape, right? And 2, Joe wouldn't send anybody over that was a shit wrestler, because that would be his reputation on the line. So basically, Joe got cut and fired when Sakaguchi left office. And that kind of ended my reign there in New Japan. And at that time, they started changing things. Like they brought in Brock Lesnar, who was coming in for I think it was $50,000 a match. And they were trying to go through some WWE guys. And then as soon as Inoki and Simon kind of left, then that all dropped. And then they were using like almost nobody. Then they started using Giant Bernard and Fergal Devitt and Machine Gun. Those were the only 3 gaijins that they were using. And their financial situation was terrible. So at that time, WWE kept offering me, a contract, and then they offered me what I was telling you there. So I did try. I contacted Noah, and they asked what New Japan was paying me, and I told them the amount, but I said I would work based around your guys' needs. And then they just never got back to me, and I don't know if that's because they didn't want any trouble with New Japan or whatever the deal was. So if it were up to me, I would have stayed in New Japan had there not been that situation. And honestly, I would have kept going over to New Japan even despite Joe being, being fired or being let go. But he was my only connection there, right? And and Japan's kind of weird with things, their relationship-wise. Like, as soon as they cut somebody that's sending guys over, it's not like they're going to keep using those guys that the guy's sending over. They just, as soon as that's done, it's like, no. You know what I mean? They're weird. So I would have preferred to have stayed in New Japan, because the thing is that I was already really established technically, and I was doing a lot of stuff in Calgary and doing all the training with Joe. And I did 3 tours, but had I been over there working over consistently and had the company been in a good financial situation for, let's say, 3 or 5 years, it might have been a totally different thing when I finally went to WWE. It might have been a bit of like a different, like kind of like in a different star status. But I'd only done 3 tours, and it was like, hey, WWE's knocking your door down. They're offering you this, what looks like a great deal. They really want you. Why not why not take it, right? And then when they got a hold of me, it was kind of like, I was too young, because I think I was 19 or 20. I couldn't even rent a car on my own. I was just young, man, like, you know. I was technically I was doing good. I was working with Rob Conway on house shows, and I wouldn't say I was like a teacher's pet to the agents, but I was definitely doing everything that they said, and I was doing all the right things. And unfortunately, and I'll tell you this too, it was bad timing, me being signed at that time, because it was a different time, like 2007, 2008. I don't really want to say anything, but it wasn't exactly WWE's best time, and with everything with the Benoit tragedy too, I don't think that the wrestling product at that time was very good. I mean, I think, wasn't Dan Rodimer going to be the champion and leading the company to the new millennium or whatever? So, you know, like, that just goes to show you.
Tough enough.
Yeah, so, and he's not a bad guy, but like, come on, man. And so I wish timing was different with things, and had I been able to stay in Japan if things were different, I would have rather stayed there, then finally gone to WWE, but things kind of happened backwards for me as far as that goes.
So there was some bizarre incident with you in Toronto with JBL.
Yeah.
Was that just the internet making more of something that wasn't really there, or?
No, you know what? I think it was WWE's way of just kind of killing me off TV, but it was just kind of like, why did you even have me debut on TV anyway, like, with that, you know? And, you know, it was a shitty thing, and it wasn't really John's fault, but had it been me now, and we had done that match, it would have been a shoot, and he would have lost that one, so.
I know you're buddies with Mauro. What do you think of all that, everything that's been talked about, supposedly?
Well, you know, it's tough to say, because Mauro, you know, I know Mauro pretty well, and he does take things really personally. So, and I know that JBL has his reputation of being a bully and stuff like that. So I think it could be a combination of a couple things, and really bottom line is Mauro's got a lot of like mental health issues, and he's been pretty open about that on Twitter and everything. So anybody with mental health issues pretty much shouldn't work in WWE. I mean, it's not really the best work environment just because of the stress and everything. And I think that he probably, you know, he takes things personally. Probably JBL was hazing him a bit, and he probably just said screw this and snapped and said, I'm having enough of this and I'm leaving. And I'm actually surprised he lasted that long in the company, just because I know how things work. And I know how Mauro is, you know, and he's such a guy that's so passionate about the business. And he's almost passionate to a fault, you know what I mean? Like and you would have known him as well. And just with him, with his condition, it's just...
Oh, I remember even in Mat Rats he had a little outburst.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So it's just, I think it was a combination of both things, but I mean, Mauro can leave WWE, and he's got his commentating for MMA, he's got all kinds of stuff. He really doesn't need the place, but I'm surprised he lasted that long, to be honest with you.
And you're a two-time WWE Tag Team Champion. What would you say is the highlight of your WWE tenure?
Yeah, definitely tag teaming with Tyson Kidd was really awesome. But you know what? I gotta say, there was a number of live events that I did where I had a lot of great times, and I got the chance to work with William Regal on a number of occasions. And man, we had some really classic matches, and we just go in there and wrestle, you know what I mean? And in front of a live crowd, and there's no limitations with how the match needs to be this time because you have a TV or anything like that. You just go out there and wrestle. I had some great matches, live event matches with John Morrison actually. And I actually beat him when he was Intercontinental Champion, and I hadn't debuted on TV and on a couple live events. And I tell you, the crowd just totally erupted there. Wow. And there was a couple guys that were heckling me in the front row at the beginning, blah, blah, blah. And as soon as I won and the match, the way that it built, those guys were standing up and cheering and clapping, and everybody went nuts. I wish that match got televised and stuff. And nobody knew me because they knew that I think they announced that I was the son of British Bulldog, blah, blah, blah. But they didn't know any of that, so that it was really great.
And you mentioned you were close with Chris Benoit before. What is your opinion on that whole tragic situation that happened with him?
Sure. So, I knew Chris Benoit really well. And, yeah, man, it's just one of those things. I hate to say it like this, but shit happens. And that's the quote. So, I think that he was one of those guys that he was so passionate about the business, almost to a fault. And I can tell you this, when I heard, because I was watching the pay-per-view live when all that happened, and as soon as I heard that he wasn't making the show because of a family emergency, and I went, what? And there was referee Wes Adams was down at the press box with me in Tampa. We were watching it at a bar there. He said, yeah, he's not making it because of a family issue. And right away I went, something's wrong. Because Chris Benoit is one of those stubborn guys and he would if anybody ever missed a show because they were sick or, you know what I mean? He was one of those guys that he would show up just to be there, even if he was hurt, you know what I mean? He was such a guy that was so professional. And you know what I mean? So as soon as he told me that, and TJ goes, hey man, do you want to call him and make sure everything's okay? And I said, no, I'm not going to call him. He goes, well, why? I said, well, what's the point? And then he was like, you're not going to call him? I said, no. And right there, I knew there was something really, really wrong. And I'm not to say that I'm a psychic, but I have had certain sort of feelings, like stuff like that, where a guy, what he's kind of like. And Chris was kind of an odd person. He was a very private person as well. I knew how much he cared about his family. Not that I predicted or knew that something like that happened, but I did know that there was a chance that something really traumatic happened for him not to show up. So I think Natty called Nancy and she didn't get a hold of her at all, left a message. And I kind of knew that. And then I went into, because I was in FCW at that time, went to wrestling practice that next day. Everyone's kind of asking me if they heard anything. I was going, no, I'm sure he's all right, but I'm thinking in my head, no, I know he's not all right. I know something's up. And then when I heard the news, it was really shocking and really, really traumatic, because I had just seen him 2 weeks before that in Orlando. Me, him, and Chavo Guerrero, we were doing Hindu squats. They were filming SmackDown. Running the stairs, everything seemed to be fine. Well, actually, I'll take that back. One thing that was odd, because I said, hey, Chris, are you still doing because he was legendary for doing the 500 Hindu squats. I said, hey, you still doing your squats? He goes, nah, man, I'm just not doing them. I don't know why. I just thought, okay, whatever. But maybe there was something going on with him that was making him not doing it, because whenever I'd see him, he would always have his little cup of, a styrofoam cup of coffee with the straw in it, and he'd be chewing it and be like, so you still doing your squats? Yeah, I am. How many? 500? Yeah, that's good. All right, you want to do some? He was always kind of like that intense kind of guy. When he told me that, and then looking back on it, when I found out about all that, and part of the big thing that I think about all that is you can blame steroids and stuff like that, but here's my opinion. One is if you go to a gym, and you probably see a lot of guys, people are going to look, oh, that guy's on steroids, that guy's on steroids. Okay, fair enough, we can judge. Are they on steroids? Maybe, yes, no, I don't know. Are they going home and killing their wife and son? No. Okay. So, can you ultimately blame steroids on the incident with Chris Benoit? I don't think it's fair to do that because, and did concussions play a big role in it? I think so, probably. That's a good assessment. Do I think that when he was, at the time, he was taking a lot of antidepressants and stuff like that, a lot of depression because of the Eddie Guerrero death, the death of Big Boss Man, the death of Victor Blackcat? Yes, I do. And I've also always talked about the butterfly effect. Butterfly does this, and then all of a sudden, a train hits something, boom. And it could have been something as simple as that, but I think that he just, for him to have snapped like that must have been something. Nancy must have told him that she was leaving him, and from what I now know, it wasn't one of those deals where he accidentally choked her unconscious, because I can tell you, because I've choked a guy out on the street once, it takes, you have to have the choke in for, I think it's at least 2 minutes for that to happen. So you choke a girl, oh shit, I drop her, I wake her up. And from what I've heard is that the room was totally like a tornado hit it, and the way how he suffocated her and stuff makes me think, man, that is a absolutely horrible thing to do, and he should never be forgiven for anything like that. You know what I mean? And just a lousy thing. And whatever made him completely snap like that, I don't know. It unfortunately tarnished his whole image, his whole wrestling career. And in my opinion, it's disqualified him from being in the WWE Hall of Fame. It's a lousy thing. I don't think he'll ever be in there, and that's not because he wasn't the hardest working guy in the company who inspired many. It was just because of one night where he totally went bonkers. But he was always great with me. He was actually a little bit unreliable at times, you know, with phoning me back and stuff like that. And again, that could be concussions and stuff like that, where I needed his help to talk to him about stuff like, hey, should I go to WWE? Should I stay in Japan? Should I go to England? Should I? And he was always kind of there for me, but he was a bit unreliable, and I'm sure others people will probably tell you the same thing. And he was a great guy. If there was anything I could have done to have helped him when he was around, I would have wished I could have, and I'm sure all of his friends would have said the same thing.
You're very close with Tyson Kidd, TJ Wilson, everyone knows that.
Yep.
What do you think of his injury, and can you update us on what the status is?
Yeah, so one of the things, and we can go back to talking about the training with Tokyo Joe. I mean, we endured some hardcore shit. I mean, really, really. And one thing that saved him with this neck injury is that his neck muscles, they said, were so strong that literally when the break, and not to say the explosion happened, the only thing that was holding his head, his spine and his head and his neck here together was his muscles that were so strong. And when they initially did the MRI and everything, they were just like, whoa, you know. They're like, don't move, don't sneeze. We're going to airlift you from here all the way back to Tampa. We need to do surgery. And I think it was comparable to the Christopher Reeves neck injury, which left him as, you know, a vegetable basically. And for him to have survived that, not only, and they said that a very few chance of people that actually survive it and don't die wind up in a wheelchair and they're completely paralyzed. And they compared it to somebody hanging off a cliff by their pinky.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And for him to have survived that is just to say that, and that's a testament to him, and it's a testament to the training we endured to, you know, his neck muscles were that strong to hold everything together. And he's doing good. I was just down there earlier last month, and he's training. I actually introduced him to an awesome massage therapist named Jason Cairo, and he runs a website called livefreebu.com with Todd Swain up in Toronto, who actually was introduced to us by Edge. And these guys are phenomenal massage guys, and his range of motion in his neck is already like night and day compared to what it was before. So is that to say he's ever going to wrestle again? I don't know. I don't think so. And that's not because of him. It's just there's a lot of, I guess, risk with him possibly if there's something happens or if he lands wrong, and you know he becomes basically a vegetable. So and WWE, and to their credit, they're good with keeping things like with their rules nowadays and protecting talent from stuff like that. Because Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson, he's another kind of example that they won't let him back into the ring. And I'm sure that if he was wrestling safe every night and only wrestling sometimes, he might be able to pull it off. But let's say someone hits him, you know what I mean? This isn't ballet. You know, somebody hits him or it lands wrong, and his concussion thing comes back, or it becomes exponential, or his neck injury or something. And that's kind of the risk that they're looking at. So it's tough to say. I wish he could come back, but for the sake of his health, I don't think he's going to.
And when you were in WWE, you went on kind of a famous date with Brooke Hogan as part of
yeah.
Hogan Knows Best.
Sure.
Any thoughts on that?
Okay, yeah. So, first off, Terry Hulk Hogan, he's a super guy, great guy, was close friends with my dad. So he had contacted WWE actually about like, a wrestler coming on to his show. I think he was asking for a young wrestler to be Brooke Hogan's date for the show. And I think The Miz was on there briefly, like it shows him doing bench press or something on the episode I'm on. And I think he was doing something, but it was actually John Laurinaitis, who he's friends with me, and I like John a lot. He recommended me to be on the show because I hadn't debuted on TV, so he might have thought of, well, this might be a good publicity for Harry. We haven't debuted him yet, but they were probably thinking, oh, well, what if we put so-and-so from Raw on there, and will that interfere with the storyline we're having, because I don't know, whatever. So it was nice of him to do it. I flew down, it was all, I'm sure you know, predetermined. We had the date, but it was, I think they were maybe hoping that something might have sparked out of it, but I was like here, I got talking with her and stuff. So, you know, it was fun. I went down to Miami for a couple days, and then straight after that I went to do some house shows with, and nothing really ever came out of it, but it was fun. It was an experience. It gave me a little notoriety. Brooke and I just didn't hit it. I like Japanese, Asian women too, so that's not going to work.
And you mentioned your dad was friends with Hogan. Was he also friends with Randy Savage?
I believe they were friends. I don't think they were like super close, but I have a pic with me and Macho Man from BJ's gym downstairs, and he's holding me. And that was really cool. I know my mom liked Randy, and she really liked Elizabeth too. And you know, it was too bad that he passed away. I never really got to know Randy aside from when I was a kid, and then when he retired, he sort of kind of not exploited himself, but he sort of kept to himself, and nobody really saw much of him. But I mean, what an athlete he was! The way he can move in that ring, and some of the matches he had is. But I know that him and my dad were friends, but I don't think they were super close.
Was it you that told me that he used to have lifts in his regular everyday shoes?
I was told that, yeah. And whether that's true or not, I think almost all those guys did, right?
Yeah. And what do you think of Natalia's success? She's become a big star now.
You know what? She's done really well. I'm happy for her. She's really done well. I mean, she's another one of those people. She did some of the Tokyo Joe training with me, and I mean, hard worker. It just goes to show you that dedication and hard work pays off. She's kind of been through the ups and downs with the company. I know they gave her a couple silly gimmicks and stuff like that, but she's always kept her chin up and never really let that bother her. And hey, one foot in front of the other and keep moving forward. And I think that she's a good inspiration to a lot of the other divas, not just to look good, but also be in there, be physical, not wrestle like men, but have that kind of that intent when you're in the ring, you know what I mean? And I think that she's helped out a lot of the divas as well there and tried to sort of mentor them. And she's done great, happy for her success. She's always been close with me, of course, being my cousin. And I'm sure, if she wants to stay in WWE for a long time, she should, and she should get treated properly too.
And you have some experience wrestling Shinsuke Nakamura in Japan.
Uh-huh.
In the past, there hasn't been a lot of history of Japanese stars really doing well in WWE.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think his chances are of success there, and how are your matches with him?
Well, yeah, and part of that, I'll go back to what I was saying earlier about timing issues, is that WWE, their wrestling style in the past hasn't necessarily been, I guess, kind of strong style or the NXT style that they're having right now. Like when Tajiri was there, they were having some of that stuff, but they kind of turned him more into a comedy character. And when Hakushi was there was just nobody really for him to do his stuff with. I mean, there was Brett, Davey, and Owen. And then other than that, it's kind of the battle of the big guys, right? And he sort of faded there. So a lot of it depends on timing, because if Nakamura would have signed there, let's say 10 years ago, he might have been Kenzo Suzuki, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that him and Kenzo are the same on the talent level, but I'm just saying that timing, you know what I mean? It's just, so his chances of succeeding now, because of the way that the NXT styles run and WWE's styles run, I think he's got a great chance at success. He's a great wrestler. He speaks, and I don't know how much promo stuff that they're having him do. He speaks great English. He's a very smart person. He actually has a degree in, I think it's business and advertising. So he knows how to present himself and advertise himself to the audience. And he's a unique person. You know, he did some training with the Jonko Master in Japan. That's that game. And there's a guy there that's undefeated, and he's got all these philosophies on balance and different, he can tell when a storm is going to come and stuff like that. He's one of those weird guys, but Nakamura got sent to train with him. And then when he came back after that, I heard that he sort of changed his style to what he's doing now. Because before he was sort of like a UWF, almost kind of, he did some shoot fights, and then he sort of changed his style where he was doing all this weird stuff and changed his hair, and it worked for him. So that just goes to show you, he's smart and he knows how to think and do stuff outside of the box, right? And be unique. And that's the big thing, is a lot of guys, they should try to find like a unique attribute in themselves and be able to express that to the audience. And that's, you know, a lot of it. And a lot of it's timing, and a lot of it's just being the right place at the right time. And of course, hey, that pen and pencil saying exactly what's going to happen, right?
Yeah. And for those that don't know, you're back in New Japan and Pro Wrestling Noah now. You want to explain what the difference is between those two companies, and also what your status is now with those companies?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm back with New Japan Pro Wrestling now, and I was with Noah for about 2 years, teaming with Lance Archer. Unfortunately, New Japan and Noah kind of split last year, just due to a business agreement. The old All Japan president, Uchida, came to Noah to be the new president, and New Japan separated, so that's fair enough. So coming back to New Japan this year was really an awesome thing, because it's the #1 company in Japan. And I've been going over there, and unfortunately Lance Hoyt, my partner, injured his back. And he just had back surgery, so it kind of put a little bit of a curveball into things, because I haven't been going over the past few months. But I been hoping for, and still hope for, a singles run in New Japan Pro Wrestling before I, pursue other things. And that's because I find that a lot of my greatest matches and greatest stuff in Japan has been having singles matches with guys like Shinsuke Nakamura, like we were just talking about him earlier, and a lot of the stuff that I've done in the G1 climaxes. And that's not to say that I don't like teaming up with Lance. He's a great guy. We've done really a great amount of work over there, and I hope that we can still do it. But I also would like to branch out into the singles world and be able to show Japan exactly a lot of other things and a lot of different techniques that I can do over there. I'm hoping to be participating in this year's G1 Climax, which is the July and August heavyweight tournament for New Japan Pro Wrestling. But I'm not sure. I haven't gotten a schedule. I know I'm going back over there next month, and I want to show Japanese fans, the strong style. And there's a difference, like, between, I think, strong style and going in there. And I feel that guys, and you would probably know this, Devin, people should be in wrestling, because this is not ballet and it's not a fucking joke, should be more physical with each other. You shouldn't be afraid to hit each other, and if you do accidentally hit somebody and they cry, they shouldn't be in the business. They should get out and go do something else. And all these guys nowadays it's all monkey see, monkey do. Everybody's slapping their leg on everything. And that's okay, it works for some guys are good with it, but why not just hit a guy? You know, guys like Stan Hansen and Bruiser Brody, they had reputations for being stiff, but they also were the ones making the money. And they were guys that were being feared. And you have to treat this, you know, not as, this isn't, and there's guys here that are, some guys that want to be weekend warriors or just do that for the weekend, and that's fine. And there's guys that want to be serious and take it to the next level. And those guys that are serious and want to take it to the next level, there should be a certain amount of there should be a certain amount of kayfabe involved, and it should be treated as it being a shoot. And the more that you can actually think that this is a shoot, but we're going to work, and I think Stone Cold Steve Austin said the same thing, the better off you're going to be, because a lot of the fancy stuff a lot of guys are doing this and that, and it really doesn't matter. It's giving the fans what they want to see, but also being able to go in there and bring it and be. I've been known to be a little bit stiff in the ring. I've never really hurt anybody. As long as you're hitting guys in the safe places, you should be able to be stiff, and if it's on TV, you should hit each other pretty hard. I'm not saying headbutt each other in the heads like Shibata and him, the other guy, were doing, and he's out of wrestling for good. But hey, lay your stuff in. And that's something that Bruce and Tokyo Joe and Inoki and a lot of these guys, because you want to make a living at this, you should treat it as a profession, and you should be professional in there, but you should also be a little bit stiff, not be afraid to push some boundaries and stuff like that. And I think a lot of guys, you know, they're all imitating each other, but someone should go in there and, you know, boom, 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 you know, like a big Van Vader. That's what people want to actually see. They want to see this and that, but they want to be intrigued and be waiting to see what's next, not just go, oh, okay, oh, there was a big spot, this is awesome. They want to see a fucking boom, you know. They want to see some action, but they want to see some intensity, and they want to see some intent, malicious intent.
Now, as a person that's been training extensively in MMA with some top guys,
yep.
What do you think about CM Punk's foray into the world of MMA?
Yeah, well, I'll say this. I'll say this off the bat. I give Phil or CM Punk, I give him credit for going out there and doing the fight. A lot of people, a lot of fighters, I would say in UFC, were probably mad because he got, what, $500,000 for the fight? And, you know, bottom guys, it's 5 and 5 if they win and lose, or 10 and 10. I don't know exactly the pay scale. But you can't really blame Punk for that. The guy to blame for that is the people that are paying the money. That's to be Dana White or the brothers or whatever. I don't know who is deciding the pay scale. And that was kind of the same thing was with a lot of these guys that were being sent to developmental, like a lot of models or muscle heads or football players, ex-football players, they're being signed to big money, and guys in developmental would be getting mad at them, and it's like, well, you shouldn't get mad at them, you should be getting mad at the guy that's hiring them, because he's the guy that's paying them. Because if somebody says, if there's a guy that's a musclehead football player and he's retired and he's looking for a job, and someone says, well, I'll pay you $75,000 to be a lawyer. Okay. Sure, I'll take it. I don't know how to be a lawyer. I don't like being a lawyer, but I'll take it, 9 to 5 or whatever, or be a lawyer's assistant, I should say. So that's the thing, is you don't get mad at the CM Punk, because I know the, I think it was Diaz who said a bunch of stuff about him and was blah, blah, but hey, he got offered the money and he was willing to take the risk. Yeah. So he was willing to take the risk one night. Sure, why not? I know that he did go to train with Josh Barnett. And Josh had told me, sort of in, you know, when we were just chatting, and he said that he needed a lot of work. And I know that Josh is a very smart guy with fighters and fighting and teaching. And I would take his word basically over anybody's, if his advice or his opinion on somebody being ready or not being ready to be in the cage over anybody's. I mean, the guy's been around MMA for 20 years. He knows pro wrestling, and he would know sort of what Punk's stature is, and for him to say that, I believed him, and I knew that when he was stepping into the octagon, that it was a big risk, and I didn't think that he was going to win, to be honest with you. I didn't think it was a bad idea just because he had one UFC fight under his belt. He made $500,000. He can move on and do whatever else he wants to do. I think that it would have been better if he had some, I don't want to say easier fights, but maybe if Bellator had offered him something and kind of built up his record. Because fighting anybody in the UFC, even if it's a lower rate guy, they're professional fighters, and that's what they do for a living, and everybody there in the UFC that's fighting now is basically a stud. They're going to be a specialist in something. If it's striking, if it's wrestling, if it's grappling on the ground, to be able to get out there, and you have to have a certain amount of fights before you get up there, pro fights. So everybody there is pretty much a stud. They're no pushovers. So was it a bad thing? Well, I mean, I don't really think that it hurt pro wrestling, because everybody seems to think that it's, it's fake or this and that. And that's because of the way things have happened and the way things have been exploited. But also people that know that if it's predetermined stuff, they still want to be entertained, but they still almost want to believe, oh, is that really real? And that's what I was getting back to with being stiff with each other and laying stuff in and having a respect for the kayfabe. And that was something that Tiger Jeet Singh and Abdullah the Butcher and a lot of guys that were over in Japan that were very successful. Tiger, I have a lot of respect for him, great guy. But he's 100% professional. He's not gonna, even the way he approaches himself in front of large audiences and people. And that's why he's such a respectable person in the area in Toronto and Milton, Ontario. And of course he's got schools named after him. A great guy, but that's, a lot of people need to, if you don't take yourself seriously, and you don't take your training seriously, then why should the average person that is paying $20 earned dollars to pay to watch you wrestle? If you don't take yourself seriously, why should they take you seriously? And you should treat it as a sport and a career, and it's not ballet.
And finally, who would your ideal opponent be if you could choose someone from today, either WWE or New Japan?
Sure, I actually have a number of guys that I'd like to wrestle. I would love to wrestle Masakatsu Funaki, and he wrestles for the All Japan company. And he wrestled my Uncle Owen originally in New Japan. And he started in New Japan, he went to Pancrase. He fought in K1, he's back doing pro wrestling. I have a lot of respect for him. Seems like a super guy. I would love to wrestle Kazushi Sakuraba in a singles match. There's a bit of a size difference, but that doesn't really matter. I would like to wrestle my boss Minoru Suzuki as well. I've gotten a chance to, and that's out of a respect thing, I've gotten a chance to learn a lot of techniques and spar with Minoru Suzuki as well. I could say his techniques are top-notch. The guy has trained for 25 years. He's not only a specialist in the Gotch style, but he's done judo, he's done sambo. He pretty much knows everything if you ask him. And I've been very grateful for all of his help and also what he's done for myself in my career in Japan and the Suzuki-gun group as well. I would also love to wrestle Jun Akiyama. He's of course wrestles for the All Japan company. He's one of the original Big Four members from All Japan with Mizawa Kawada, Kobashi Taue, and then there was Akiyama, who was the fifth guy. He's the only guy that is still around from that era. And there's a number of guys I would love to get in the ring, even though he's not wrestling anymore, with Fit Finley. And he's one of those guys. I mean, he brings it in the ring. He lays it in. Everything he does is believable. You know what I mean? And you can believe his intent. And has a reputation of being a really tough guy. Very respectable, super nice man too, and just a man of integrity, and he's honest. He would never lie to you about anything. And that's something that I hope too. I don't ever want to lie to anybody. 100% honest. Those names, and then of course being in the ring with Tyson Kidd again would be awesome. Unfortunately, I don't know if that would happen again. Last year, me and Teddy Hart, we had a couple of great matches in Calgary. We had a 30-minute draw, and then we had another contest at Ranchman's in Calgary. And I wish that it could have gotten on tape, the second one. I mean, the action in there was really awesome. Growing up, just the amount of chemistry that me and Ted have, it'd be really awesome. I mean, he's one of those guys we could just go in the ring right now and just start wrestling and just tell a story. And Ted's a unique, really talented, raw natural talented person, excuse me. So those names to list off. Aside from that, you know, I would love to get in the ring with Kurt Angle and wrestle him. I don't know where he's wrestling at, or if I know he's kind of tapered off, and he's back in WWE as a commissioner, from what I've heard. But he would be another guy, just trying to think. And from the past, I mean, there's so many guys. My Uncle Brett, being able to wrestle with my dad, Dynamite Kid, Jumbo Tsuruta, Mizawa. Actually, if I could have gotten the chance to wrestle Chris Benoit, that would have been great. Hiro Hase. There's so many guys I could list off that I would have really loved to have gotten in the ring and worked with. And Ric Flair, he's another guy. And Rick's a super guy too. He's always been nothing but nice to me. And actually, it's funny, I can tell you a story. He and I did 500 Hindu squats together right before his, I think it was a week before his match with Shawn Michaels, his retirement match.
Wow.
And him at his age to do 500 Hindu squats is really impressive. We did it in Hawaii, and then he flew straight from there to do some appearances, and then WrestleMania week. So it was a good way to bond with him, and he's been nothing but great with me. But he's another guy I could list off that, you know what, I mean, who knows, he's still around. He might be crazy enough to get in the ring with me, so.
I'd like to see that.
Yeah, and Terry Funk's another guy that I would love to get in the ring with.
Yeah, I think I ended his career finally, so.
Oh,
I don't
okay,
think,
I'll scrap that.
And where can we follow you, for anyone watching this that wants to follow you on social media?
Yeah, you can follow me at DB Smith Jr. on Twitter, and it's the same for Instagram. I do have a Facebook account, but my friend limitations has been reached to its max, unfortunately. And I keep that kind of more for friends and family, but for the general public, yeah, follow me on Twitter at DB Smith Jr. And my website to get merchandise for the UK is at officialdbsmithjr.com. And yeah, if you can follow me and support me, it would be greatly appreciated. I certainly appreciate all the fans. I actually met a fan last night, super nice guy, and he came up to me and told me all about how he watched on closed circuit television when my dad and Dynamite first won the tag team titles from Valentine and Beefcake, and he got quite emotional about it, and it was really nice to see something like that. And to see him, he's been a fan for 30 years, and he came last night, so. And then it's really great to travel and meet people like that and have those kind of experiences, so.
Well, we're happy to have you here, and best of luck in your match tonight at Cage Wars.
Absolutely, I'm looking forward to it. Jeremy's a great talent, and I think tonight we're going to hopefully I can show some unique Billy Robinson techniques that he passed on to me, and we're going to give the crowd a really awesome match. And you know, Jeremy's a tough opponent.
Unless you destroyed him too badly last night, he's not.
Yeah. Well, let's hope he's still in one piece from last night. So.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Arigato.